Hello, this is Milt Walker, the host of Intelligentlemen, and we're back for episode 4. It's been a long journey. These first 4 episodes, we kind of talked about some of the things that, I feel make a man, and how to differentiate between those who are still becoming men and those who are men. And it's a mind state, right? I mean, because you're born male, but you only cross into manhood once you have understand what a man is. And so we kind of talked about that in the last 3 episodes. So we're not going to really go too far into it. But if you would, go back and listen to those, and you can kind of get a little more insight into what my thoughts are on that. And thank you to everyone who has listened. The support has been overwhelming, and I really do appreciate it. Sorry it took so long for me to come back with episode 4. But I've been really, really busy, and I wanted to take this time out to kind of talk a little bit about who I am and what I do. My name is Milt Walker again. I am a IT support specialist, cloud computing consultant, and software developer for myself. I have a company where I do these things, and I've always been into technology since I was young. Starting off with playing, video games, of course, like Nintendo, Sega, and so on and so forth, was around the era when I grew up and was able to actually, get hands on stuff like that. And I grew up in a neighborhood where, not a lot of people had these things. And so we used to go out and meet up with each other at the houses where they were, and we would all take turns and play games. But we spent a lot of our time outside, playing around, playing football, playing basketball, playing baseball, riding bikes, walking, kind of exploring our community, just, doing all kinds of things, coming up with our own games that we would play throughout the neighborhood and so on and so forth. So it was a very fun period in my life where, I was growing up. There wasn't a whole lot of the things that are going on now, but they were still there. And we were kind of oblivious to it because in our community, it was pretty close knit. And so a lot of people knew each other. And so you didn't really see a lot of that happening, and so that was a good thing. Right. And so, that's kind of, my childhood in a nutshell. But from there, I got into computers after I got my GED. I got my GED actually a year before I was supposed to graduate. And I went into the electrical field, electrical construction trade, and as an apprentice. And, I stuck with that for a little while. And then I went into fire alarm systems and camera systems because I had gotten, introduced to low voltage during my electrical construction time, because some of the electricians were actually, they would actually specialize in low voltage. And so I always thought it was very interesting that, you could control these big, huge machines, because I was in an industrial environment at that time, how you can control these huge machines using this one little cabinet that had all these, devices in them that were wired up with these little small wires and, these, things on the inside that made it go on and off. And, it's really interesting. And, at that time, I really didn't understand the full breadth of it. But, all I knew was, oh, that's pretty cool. So that's how they control this. This is how when you're at the control console, this is what routes all of that into the machine, and kind of translates that. Called it a PLC cabinet. And so, it was, one of those things. And so I went into fire alarm systems and camera systems and done a lot of jobs, in a lot of places all over Georgia. Doing, installations for universities, for, military installations, and so on and so forth. And so, we kind of traveled a lot, and it was just me and the project manager. And he was a great guy. He taught me a lot about project management and just in general about, being an entrepreneur and being able to, go to a customer, give a price estimate on a job, and live up to those expectations in the short of that. And I was actually designated because once they found out that I love technology and I was actually pretty proficient in it, they designated me as the CAD designer. So I started taking the digital drawings from the architects and using that to add our circuits for our systems. And that was pretty cool as well, because I pretty much had to teach myself how to use software. It was very interesting, but of course, software like that, it costs a lot of money. And they had support, so I could call them if I had a question about anything. And it was a very, very cool experience for me. At that time I had got a laptop, that I could do these things on, but also I had started gaming. And so I got into, gaming online and really got into that. And my love for technology just kept, growing and growing and growing. And, before you knew it, I was the go-to guy in my community for, for doing, any type of technical work. Like if they needed some, if they needed their network set up, if they needed their, computers fixed, viruses removed, so on and so forth, I was that guy that they would kind of come to. And I used to love to do it, so I did it for free. And I never really asked for anything. But then there was a friend of my grandmother's who I was helping, and she, I had helped her several times before. And, this time she handed me some money, and I was like, well, no, I don't charge, anybody for this. I'm not going to charge you for that. And she was, she just told me, she said, well, you need to put some money in your pocket, because this is you're helping people. And so, it was kind of profound. And at that time, I didn't understand how profound it was. I just knew that, she was wise and she knew what she was talking about. So I took her advice. I took the money. But I said to myself, I resolved at that point, I said, well, if I'm going to take money from her, because I would never take money from her, if I'm going to take money from her, then I'm definitely going to charge everybody else, right? So that's what I did. I started doing that, and people paid me for my services. And it was cool, because I was doing something I loved to do and I was getting paid for it. So I couldn't really complain about it. And with that, it took me a few places. I've lived in, New York. I've lived in California. I've lived in Florida. I've lived in Atlanta. I've done a lot of work in Atlanta for Dell. I've done a lot of work in Georgia in general for AT&T and Dell. And, things have gone pretty well. When I was in California, I was going to a lot of the Google conferences. I got a lot of Google certifications while I was there, and spent a lot of time learning a lot about, the things, technology, just things that I was interested in. I actually also got a scholarship from Google to go to an online college, and I completed that course, and it was in Android programming. So that's where the software development portion comes in, because I kind of deal in that as well, but not just for Android. But with that, I kind of went into cloud computing. And so, I've been playing around with Azure, Microsoft's cloud, and Google Cloud for a long time, since before it really became mainstream. And, I was kind of testing some of this stuff before it came out as well. But because it was just fun to me, again, just learning new things and learning technology was one of the things that I love to do, and I always do in my own free time. And that's something I truly believe in, is learning and continuing to learn and continuing to grow. And so, it was a great experience, and I learned a lot over there and kind of brought it back home to Georgia with me. And one of the things that I've always wanted to do as well is start a program for kids in communities, in low-income communities, so that they can be exposed to technology. Okay, so this is one of my initiatives that I have going right now, and we are raising money for that. And if you want to go and check me out on Facebook, you can kind of get some information there about it. But I want to teach kids, computer skills and especially in these communities, because that's where it's needed the most, because that's where it's absent the most. We love technology. We love to, be on our phone. We love to be on the computer, but we don't really understand the technology, as a whole. You have people who do, and there are communities of people of color that do as well. But, for the most part, in general, most of our communities are kind of behind the curve on that. So I have kind of taken it upon myself to try to work on that, right? And to try to bring more of that education to our communities, and not just the education, but some of the technology, so that, kids and on up to adults, to be honest, can play around with it, right? Not just, learn about it and then they go home and then they just back in the same, situation, but actually do hands-on projects with technology that can teach them these skills that they can go on and, get jobs with these big companies, or start their own companies and, become economically empowered, and come back and economically empower their communities, which in turn will just raise the quality of life for these communities, right? And kind of change the direction, right, in some of these communities, because some of these communities, namely like one of my home city, is one of the places where it's needed the most. We've been having a lot of trouble with that, but it's all a process, and that's something about us men, that we have to understand that, these things are part of a process, and it's a process that you have to be consistent with. You have to be determined. You have to be, persistent with, and you have to really be involved. You have to really have a, you have to really want to do it. You can't just say, I wish things would change, but then you're not a part of that process of change, right? Because then you're just talking, you're not really participating in your own development. And so, that's some of the things that I do. And with that, I just want to take a break right here, and we're going to come back with the next segment, and we're going to talk a little bit more about myself and just in general, just kind of talk about some technology and some of the things that, we really need to be paying attention to, and some of the things that we really need to be into as well. So again, I'm thanking you for listening, and I hope you're enjoying the podcast so far. And I will see you all in about a minute. This is Intelligentleman. Thank you for listening and stay tuned. We'll be right back. Hello, and we are back. This is segment 2 of Intelligentleman, and I am still just kind of introducing myself, so I'm calling this episode Late Introductions. I wanted to talk about, some of the things that I do in the community and with my business, and kind of go over some of those things now. I kind of gave a overview about some of my history and what brought me to this point. You'll hear some come out, throughout the show as well. But, I mentor in the community to boys and girls, as well as teaching computer skills to late elementary kids up to adults. And I think it's very important that people give back, right? If they have any sort of measure of success, whether it be personal or business, I feel that it's imperative that you give a little back of your time and resources to enable others to be inspired to go and find their own successes in life. And in our communities, I think that's very important, and it's something that definitely should be done, a lot, because we really need it, to be quite frank. So a couple of the mentoring programs that I am a part of, it just teaches some of these same things that I've been talking about in my podcast. And, I like to study and learn these things from, professionals and some friends of mine, mentors of mine that I like to share with the younger generation as well. And so that's kind of where a lot of that stuff came from in my first 3 episodes, just talking about positive thinking, positive values, and expression. So definitely go back and check that out if you haven't. And, you could use it to speak to kids in your own, because they're universal, right? These things are universal. They apply to anybody, anywhere. And so it's not something that's limited by, just a few people, being able to talk about it. And with the mentoring program, it's very, I love to do it, and it's very rewarding in that it's good to see kids start modeling these things at an early age, because that it's a seed, right? It's a seed or a foundation to build on and to grow. And so seeing them start to implement these and understand some of these principles at a young age is just very rewarding. And I can't really even describe the feeling I get when I'm doing it. It's kind of like doing this podcast, I love putting positive energy out there, and I love teaching, and I love sharing. And so that's some of the things that I really feel passionate about. But also I, teach computer skills to late elementary up to adults. And so part of that is just giving back of some of the skills and things that I've learned throughout my life that has gotten me to this point and, will propel me into the future. It's a Google-based initiative that I use to teach these things, and you get a Google certificate afterwards, to have a mark of achievement, right? To say that you've participated and completed something for bettering yourself, right? Because that's really what it's all about. And it's any and everything from research skills, basics, security, online security, and, how to make, a resume, how to research for a business plan, how to write a business plan using, digital tools and so on and so forth. So it's a lot of stuff, to choose from, and a lot of things to learn. And I'm really excited about that, and I love doing it. And so, that's part of what I do. But also, it just kind of expounded on that, and I kind of talked about it a little bit. In the community, you really want to give back, and my vision for this is having a tech center that kids in these communities that don't have access to this technology, they can go to and obtain access to this technology in a controlled environment where, they can feel free to experiment. They can feel free to, make mistakes and learn and just grow into whatever it is they might love to do. I mean, it doesn't even necessarily have to be, technology. It may be, well, I like, creating graphics online, but what I really want to do is become a painter, or I want to become a poet. I like, writing papers, research papers, but I really want to be a poet, right? So, I mean, but it's just enabling them to see further than their own communities into a future that they might not think is possible for themselves in any other circumstance. And so that's my vision, and also having a portion of that be where they can train and they can get certified, and have people from these different industries and come and talk to them and kind of give them pointers and inspiration and motivation to pursue these things, right? And and just really just encourage them to look at life as a continuous learning journey, and that they never have to limit themselves to what their environment may be, and they can go out seeking knowledge anywhere and let that help guide them into what their destiny is, right? What their purpose in life is. And we talked about that in some of my past podcasts. And so, you have to experience life. And one of the things that they, in those communities are not able to experience a lot is the technology. You might have a phone, and some people do, of course, get to the point where they can do that. But for the majority, they don't have access to it. And, it's never really likely for them to get access to it for one reason or another. And so, having that there where, the parents and the grandparents or the caregivers don't really have to worry about saying, hey, well, or feeling bad because, well, I can't really afford it to provide it. It's there, it's part of the community. They go there, they learn it. They, even some programs, some part of the programs, I want them to be able to build computers, and then they can take them home, right? From either scrap parts that are donated from different businesses, different organizations, and they can build them, and then they can take it home, and they would have their own computer, right? Or repair computers, that people just want to donate that don't really work, teach them how to repair it. And then they get in their pay for that is to be able to take it home with them. This is all part of what my vision is and where I am going with my vision and my organization. And so definitely reach out to me, whatever way you can. You can always send me messages on here as well. If you're on the Anchor platform, they have a way for you to send me voice messages, and I will feature them on the podcast. If it's appropriate, of course. I want to keep this age appropriate, so definitely I'll definitely put it on here and give a shout out to whoever sent it, and definitely looking forward to any feedback that I can get about some of these things, because just the bottom line is I'm still finding my own way in life as well. So part of having that mentality that you want to learn every day, or learn something, or live and learn, is knowing that you don't know everything, being humble, right? We talked about that before too. And just knowing that, there's a lot more to learn, and you can learn from other people, and always remember, don't look up or look down at people, always see them for who they are, which is another person just like you. Right. And so that's part of it. And that's some of the things that I'm doing. And with my business, I have my own business. And with that, I'm also part of a couple of other businesses as, a consultant and as a executive committee member, where I help make decisions and be a part of the growth of the organization. And I'm very grateful to them, because they are also like mentors to me, and they help me learn a lot, and they help push me forward into what I'm doing, and keep me motivated, right, and keep me focused. And so I'm very grateful for that. And I haven't really asked them if I could give out their name, so I'm not going to do it. But definitely shouts out to them. If you're listening to this, I really do appreciate it. Much love and light to all of you. Thank you again. And so I do that, and also I'm running my business, and it's really satisfying for me to be able to provide a service to people that they need, right? And me being from the South, I don't know if you could tell, but me being from the South, there's a lot of opportunity with that. And so I'm happy to be able to help people as much as possible. And so in short, in closing, I'm just going to leave you with a couple of thoughts about, yourself, and ask you, hey, send a message in. Let me know what you're doing in your community. Let me know some of the projects and programs you got going on, and anything I can kind of showcase on here, I will. And, definitely if you want to collaborate on anything, we are taking donations for, equipment for my organization as well. Like I said, if you ever want to reach out, just definitely reach out and let me know, and then I can send you any information like that. I really don't want to kind of advertise it on here, but I do want to let it be known what I'm doing, and so that people know that this guy who's making this podcast is not just somebody talking about it, but he's actually doing it, right? Because I think that's important, and people keep telling me that's important too. So I tend to listen to people who know what they're talking about. So, and so without further ado, I am going to bring this episode to a close. I'd like to thank you again for all your support, and for listening, and for helping me to reach out into the world and try to bring some light. I really do appreciate it. And I am closing this out to say peace and much love.